Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. Today we are going to discuss about the proposal to set up India's first dark sky reserve and how by setting this dark sky reserve the government is trying to promote astronomy tourism, which is a new and emerging section of tourism, new and emerging we can say area of tourism that is taking root all over the world. India also does not want to be left behind in it. So let us first try to understand what is dark sky reserve and what is the context in which we are discussing today's issue. So, in a recently held press conference, Department of Science and Technology and experts from the Indian Institute of Astrophysics in Bangalore, they have decided to provide scientific and technological support in developing the first of its kind facility in India, that is Dark Sky Reserve. By the end of 2022, India is going to establish country's first dark sky reserve in the cold desert regions of Ladakh. And announcing this, the Minister of State for Science and Technology, Dr. Jitendra Singh, has said that this facility will also promote astronomy tourism, both for the domestic traveler, domestic tourist, as well as for the international traveler and tourist. So, what basically is a dark sky reserve? So, if we try to understand, the dark sky reserve can be simply defined as any kind of public or private land which has a very distinguished or unique nocturnal environment. Nocturnal environment means the environment that we see, that we experience during the night time, and also have a starry night. That means in the night time, if you are able to look up in the sky, you will be able to see a large number of stars because of less amount of light pollution. And the most important, this we can say the objective of creation of dark sky reserve is to prevent light pollution from spreading from urban areas, nearby urban areas, to these areas that are having less human habitation. And as far as the International Dark Sky Association, this is the association which is basically responsible for creation or granting a registration to any dark sky reserve anywhere in the world. It has said or defined dark sky reserve as having two types of area. The first and the innermost region of dark sky reserve is called as core area, and core area has to meet a minimum criteria for having a particular kind of sky quality and should have a natural darkness. As well as the core area will be surrounded by a peripheral area that supports dark sky preservation in the core region. So basically, we try to understand it is very much similar to the UNESCO's concept of biosphere reserve, where biosphere reserve also have a core area and then it has a buffer zone. So buffer zone basically provides support to the core region, and in similar way in the dark sky reserve as well, the core area is supported by the peripheral zone. At the same time, International Dark Association also has said that if any dark sky reserve is being created, it is basically seen to be partnership of multiple land managers who have recognized the value of natural nighttime environment for the earth. So how can any region or any area can become a dark sky reserve? For this, the process is very simple. As we discussed, the main organization responsible for granting registration to any dark sky reserve is IDSA, that is International Dark Sky Association. So if any country or any region has to become a dark sky reserve, so first of all they have to file a nomination for the particular site to get the certification. If we talk about India's reserve, then India is in the process of nominating the Ladakh region or the site in the Ladakh region for to be declared as a DSR. The certification process after nomination or filing of nomination is very much similar to the UNESCO's process of designating any area as biosphere reserve under its Man and Biosphere Reserve program. So certification process is very similar to UNESCO World Heritage Site status as well as the Man and Biosphere Reserve program both. So there are certain criteria or certain eligibility criteria that IDSA takes into consideration before granting certification for the dark sky reserve. So what are these certification criteria? The first criteria is the land or the site which is to be declared as DSR need to be publicly or privately owned. Second, it should be accessible to the public partially or entirely during the year. And third and the most important criteria is the land that is being used as a site for DSR should be legally protected for scientific, natural, educational, cultural, heritage as well as public enjoyment purposes. Once these three criteria are fulfilled, and also as we discussed in last slide, if the site also fulfills the criteria or the definition of IDSA to become DSR, then after the certification is granted to that particular site. If we talk about in last 20 years, since 2001 to 2021, almost 195 new dark sky reserves have been created by the IDSA all across the world. Now coming to the next topic, that as far as India's DSR is concerned, which organization or who are the entities responsible for creation of such site? So basically, the lead organization responsible for development of Dark Sky Reserve is the Ladakh Union Territory Administration. To remind you, Ladakh earlier was part of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Earlier, few years back, the Ladakh, Jammu and Kashmir region has been converted into Union Territory. So now Ladakh Union Territory Administration is acting as leading agent to basically set up Dark Sky Reserve in the Ladakh region. The effort of Ladakh Union Territory Administration at the same time is also being supplemented and supported by Department of Science and Technology at the central government level, Indian Institute of Astrophysics that is headquartered in Bangalore, and the effort of Indian Institute of Astrophysics is important because this institute is already running the Indian Astronomical Observatory in the same region where DSR is to come up in Ladakh. So IIA has a much information and knowledge about the terrain, and it can help significantly in setting up DSR as well. The Indian Astronomical Observatory is continuously being used by the scientists not only from India but all across the world by using various kind of instruments such as looking into the X-rays, looking at the infrared rays, ultraviolet rays, and using the pristine skies of Ladakh region to search and find exoplanets, stars, and the galaxies. Overall, the establishment of DSR was given a formal approval when a memorandum of understanding has been signed recently between Indian Institute of Astrophysics, Ladakh Union Territory, and Ladakh Autonomous Hill Development Council. So let us try to understand what is the geographical location where India's first DSR is going to come up. So as we can see, this is the map of Jammu and Kashmir. In the eastern side, we have this Ladakh region. And as you can see that in the easternmost part of Ladakh region, we have Indian Astronomical Observatory. And the region is known by the name of Hanle. So it is in the Hanle region of this area where DSR will come up. And also this is the region where we have Changthang Wildlife Sanctuary. So DSR will actually be a part of Changthang Wildlife Sanctuary. So this is the location of this proposed DSR. Now obviously question arises that in such vast land such as India, why Ladakh has been chosen as a site for DSR? So there are several reasons for that. The first reason is, if we talk about from the climatic point of view, Ladakh has a very unique kind of climate, and that is why Ladakh is a kind of cold desert that is situated above 3000 meters above sea level. And if we talk about the actual site of DSR, it will be situated somewhere about 4500 meters above sea level. Second, Ladakh also has high mountainous terrain. It has long and harsh winter where temperature can drop as low as minus 45 degrees Celsius. And due to these harsh conditions that exist in the Ladakh region, this area is uninhabitable. And that is why it is very, very important, because if area is uninhabitable, the chances of light pollution becomes very, very less. And that is why it offers an advantage to Ladakh, that the sky will obviously and naturally will be dark, and which is the first and foremost criteria to be identified as a DSR. So by looking at this, if you look at the uniqueness that Ladakh offers, so it offers uniqueness in the form of topography, which is very, very arid in nature. Second, there are limited vegetation. So overall, the sky can be seen much more clearly. And also due to limited vegetation, what will happen is the amount of evapotranspiration will be less, and that is why there is less amount of water vapor, low density of clouds that will make the sky much more clearly visible. Third, Ladakh has high elevation. That means it is far above the plain areas, and that is why the extent of pollution will also be relatively less. And as we discussed, due to low number of people settling and sitting here, the pollution extent, light pollution extent will also be relatively low. Then apart from that, we have cold weather. Now cold weather is important because in cold weather we have the movement of air that happens from the upper part of atmosphere to the lower part of the earth's surface, and this condition, it basically prohibits or basically obstruct any kind of cloud formation and rainfall, and thus for a longer period of time we can see sky more clear. We'll have cloudless and very, very clear sky, and thus all these are supported by a sparse population where the pressure will not be exerted on the local population by creating such dark sky reserve. Now obviously, as we discussed in the beginning of our video, that the main objective with which DSR being set up is for the increasing or improving the tourism prospects in Ladakh. So obviously, after becoming union territory, it has been observed that Ladakh is attracting more number of tourists as compared to the early years. However, there are certain challenges. The challenges are Ladakh also have to preserve its ecological integrity, and there is always a risk that if the number of tourists increases in this region, which is a very ecologically fragile region, it can increase the footprints, and also it can increase the pollution by plying of different vehicles bringing tourists into these areas. However, to increase the tourism prospects in Ladakh by creating a DSR, the Indian Institute of Astrophysics have decided that they will try to identify locals and train them to use a telescope. Now, this is very important because if tourists are coming to Ladakh and if local people are trained to use the telescope and have basic understanding of the universe, basic understanding of the major stars, then they can also act as a guide and will give information which can be interesting for the tourists. And once these local people are identified, the people who are very interested in such activities, then they can be trained in activities such as basic sky gauging, identification of major important constellations, as well as locating the pole stars. Once sufficient number of people are trained, then the plan is to install at the homestays several different type of telescope, which is a low cost telescope that has been procured already, and thus this homestays can act as a popular option for accommodating the tourists because they will have possibility to rest in this accommodation as well as gain the information or gather the information about the universe and solar system. At the same time, emphasis will also be made that restrictions are imposed in the outdoor lighting of this homestays area because the main objective or the main success of DSR depends on the minimum level of light pollution, and that is why wherever DSR is set up, the people who are residing around these areas, they are basically encouraged to minimize light pollution by switching off unnecessary light, by using dark curtains, and so that even if light is present inside the room or inside the houses, it does not go out. So these are the certain measures that can be taken to boost the tourism prospect. Now, as we discussed that in last 20 years, more than 195 tourist dark sky reserve have been created around the world. Some of the major reserves in terms of area wise we can see is given here. In France, we have major dark sky reserve which are spread over more than 2000 to 3000 square kilometers. Similarly, in UK, we have areas dark sky reserve that is covering almost 1000 square kilometer. Then we have Wales. Wales is part of United Kingdoms. However, it every now and then tries to assert its sovereignty, and it also has a separate flag. So there also we have DSR that is as high as 1000, 2000 square kilometers in size, as large as 1000, 2000 square kilometers in size. Then Australia around Murray River, then New Zealand around Aoraki Mackenzie mountain ranges, and in Germany around Rhone and West Havelland region, we have major dark reserves that has been created. Size wise, we can see New Zealand has the largest dark sky reserve, which size is that is more than 4000 square kilometers in expanse. So after discussing all this, what we can say is that the purpose of dark sky reserve is something that can be summed up very beautifully by a quote of late famous astrophysicist Stephen Hawking when he said that if we talk about humans, we are just an advanced breed of monkeys on a small planet that is orbiting around a very average star in the universe. However, what makes us special? We can understand the universe, and that makes us very special. And one of the major step that can be taken to understand the universe is first to look into the universe, and dark sky reserve is exactly going to do that. It will give opportunity to the people from all across the world to look into the universe and marvel at the mystery of the universe that it has to offer to us. That is all for today. I hope you understood about this topic. Thank you very much.